I'm Chase Cunningham or Dr. Cunningham or Dr. Zero Trust, depending on the day of the week and the mood I'm in. We're at the Gaylord in near Baltimore, Maryland. Well, National Harbor.
National Harbor.
Yeah. All right. So actually, we're closer to Alexandria.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm here with Dane from Guardares, and I'm making sure that I don't screw it up. So go ahead and say your full name and title and everything else.
Okay. Yeah. It's Eric Krohn.
Because I was going to say. Okay, I was going to say Krone, which is weird. I told you I'd screw it up.
Yeah. No, it's all German. Right? So you say the last name like an angry German. It's Krohn. Yeah.
So kind of Viking hot vibe. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
So Know Before, and your job at Know Before is?
Yeah, I'm a security awareness advocate. What that means is I get to go around and do stuff like this, webinars, whatever.
Oh, cool. So you're used to being in front of the mini cameras that I've set up here and whatever else. Yeah.
I love the lighting. I love being blind.
Yeah. And anytime you think that people are technically adept, give them something very simple, because I was trying to mess with the lighting kit and I was about this close to hulking out, and then he goes, well, there's a button. I hit the button and it does what I want it to do. Anyway, never said I was a smart fella. But
Chase underplays that. He literally was working on it for about 35 minutes and then finally it's just a little button. So
yeah.
A little vein pop.
Exactly. Oh, I was like, the rage was there. It was building every second. It was getting worse.
And some of you guys may not know that. Like, I thought Chase was like a 5'8", stocky dude. He's like 6'3", 6'4", massive guy. So when he says hulking out, he was really good.
It was going to be bad. I've got lots of broken electronics in my house from hulking out. So we're at the Gartner event. I mean, let's just get into the nuts and bolts of it. How many times did you guys run across people selling AI this week?
Okay, so there was 350 vendors.
So 600 times.
350 vendors.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's interesting that I don't even think that they know really what that means. What AI means and how it actually applies, but they kind of have to throw it up on the screen and on their boards.
Otherwise, like you were saying earlier, we were talking earlier, like a few years ago, if you had come here and you said we have AI or Agentic or whatever, they'd have laughed you out of the room. Now, if you don't say it, people are like, well, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah. So even before it wasn't even AI, like you mentioned, machine learning.
Yeah.
It's like all the CISOs. I used to go to these, I used to call them CISO speed dating events, their thought leadership.
Oh, like the SIGNET stuff and some of those.
Yeah, and CDM and Cyber Risk Alliance. And so the keynotes, the CISOs were always talking about, 5-6 years ago, that if you mention machine learning or AI, I'm just going to ignore you. Now they only want to know, like, how's the AI applied to your product or what you guys are doing. So it's been a very interesting paradigm shift. And obviously, I think it hit right after 2022 with OpenAI and ChatGPT coming out.
Which was down on Tuesday, by the way, if anyone didn't see that news.
Yeah. Well, between that and then, a bunch of Indian developers.
That was a heck of a story, right? Yeah.
So this is totally tangential, but I don't know if y'all saw the article, and it was actually pointed out to me by one of my good friends over at Beyond Identity. Did you know that in France, they actually pushed legislation recently to basically block pornography inside of France digitally? So the Great Firewall of France, essentially. Fast forward to the day after they pushed the law, VPN usage grew 3,000% in one night. So if you really need to know why the VPN is valuable, there you go.
I think you see that in Florida too, because there's laws where you have to show your age.
Oh, okay.
So popping out around that, I think is going on too.
That's what the VPNs are used for. So porn mitigation.
It's like, at least
it's not even a security device unless you're reaching back to your network.
The consumer use of VPNs have gone up 3,000%.
Nord just went through the roof.
Exactly. NordVPN.
You might be in the wrong business. I've got to start creating VPNs and start pushing legislation.
Exactly. Find every country that's blocked it and just go, here you go.
So, so between that, the other thing that's interesting is not just AI, but zero trust. That's like...
You heard that here in Gartner, right? So I just want that on the record.
Yes, in Gartner. And the thing is, it's not... What they're saying is not a buzzword anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, it only took 15 years to actually get applied. I mean, you've been preaching it for 9 or 10. Right?
There you go, John. We beat them. We win.
Finally, it's just persistence. That's what it takes. But which is funny because if it's never trust, always verify, how does it apply in a world of AI?
Right.
Where is AI considered a user? Is it considered a device? Is it just considered an application? And can you how does that work?
That's a really good question, because that's what keeps kind of crawling up in conversations, right? Is what do you classify agentic as? Like you were saying, it's a non-human identity.
Non-human identity,
right?
Yeah.
But that's such a newish problem.
Yeah,
like NHI has just recently become a thing.
Right.
So I mean, what do we do with it?
We're still trying to figure that out. I mean, that's where we're at, and the way that the agents are working, where we're going to do all this. I mean, we haven't been able to get permissions right for
Since
humans
ever,
ever, and now we're going to let AI out there as agents being able to make its own decisions that we don't always understand why it came to this. There's definitely some concerns with that, I think, and well warranted. But in the same breath, I mean, we have to adjust the way we've always adjusted to new technology and things. Luckily, we do have things like zero trust where we can kind of do that. I mean, imagine trying to wrangle this in with the old way
Perimeter.
of dealing with,
We got firewalls, and we'll keep it out,
Right.
and that is officially
inside
dead,
is Wild
buried.
West. No, that would be horrible right now. So I think it's great that we have some of these technologies and things in place already to help deal with this issue, but it's just another technical hurdle we're going to have to figure out, and it is going to change, and we're going to find out that certain things don't work, I think, and we're going to adjust fire.
But do we think that you can apply the same principles to people that you can apply to AI, right? And
good
then,
point.
like, would you does it really need to change, or do we use the same technology that we've been using for the last 15 years, but get them right and apply them to AI? To your point, like, if there's what if you actually give AI or agentic AI is handling privilege access management?
Right, and that's where you start getting into the shady stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where
We're Skynetting a bit there.
yeah.
Like we're getting close to saying, just you do it, and which I think there's value to, but it has to be part of the strategy side, which was interesting because you said the strategy village here was just packed.
So I was commenting that they have, Gartner does a really good job of making sure that the villages are, companies, it's actually serviced towards the CISOs. CISOs, it used to be at Gartner that, I'll just bring up security awareness training, you'd have Wombat, is now Proofpoint, over here. And then you'd have Cofense way over here.
Yeah.
You had KnowBe4 here, Abnormal. Like, everybody was disparate and spread out. And the thought was that if a CISO wants to go see KnowBe4, they're going to go see them. And then if they then want to go look at, Cofense, they have to walk across the hall, which means vendors can grab them and start pitching
more
their
interaction.
products, right? There's more interaction. Okay. But the CISOs, they want to say, look, if I'm looking for security awareness training, I want to just hit that, right? And then if I do want to peruse and look at application security or data security or risk, or go to the startup village to see what new technologies there are, I will go and do that. So that's kind of how that is now. And I like it. I like that format because it's just more meaningful conversations. People aren't just trying to dodge you as they're walking down, like they actually walk up, lock eyes, and have a conversation.
That weird thing where they're like,
I'm pretending to be on the phone. I put earbuds in, and I'm just talking to myself and not actually.
Literally anything not to make an eye contact.
But they also do a good job of, like, getting the cafes and the beer carts and beer and wine.
The universal.
They could extend the hours for that. I do think an hour and a half is not enough drinking, but we can have. So they do a good job with that, and no matter what, like they did to try to increase and keep flow, the risk strategy, that it was slammed. I mean, you could not walk through there, and people were heavily interested in it. That's what they wanted to see. And all it was either the seminars were on risk strategy or on AI. And so it was interesting. Those are two topics.
They're related. Because
I don't think you can do one without the other anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And we're developing and coming up with that risk strategy related to AI. Again, it's all happening very quickly. We have strategies for dealing with risk on all kinds of stuff that have been around forever. They're well proven. It's easy to roll them out. We're figuring this out as we're playing along right now. Yeah. And I think that's probably why it's so very popular.
Yep.
I mean, the risk management side is kind of interesting just because to me, it's always been like, well, why did we even create a sector of the market for risk management? Because if you're doing all these other things correctly, you're managing the risk. But then now there is this integration capability to take care of specific problems.
Yeah.
And what I think stands out is there's actually more of a risk acceptance sort of capability than even a risk management, right? Like you're trying to always drive risk down, and you're doing that with the tech you're putting in place and the policies. But at some level, that cool graph you show in the SOC that shows that you're actually managing the risk, you're accepting that risk.
Yeah.
As long as you understand where it is and you can manage it and you have controls and all that stuff, gravy. But you don't want the risk acceptance of, mean, that
Right.
I'd
that's a
also
problem.
argue, though, that risk management, a lot of that now is much more strategic than it was, as opposed to tactical. So yeah, we have the tools, we have all that stuff in place, but that's kind of the tactics behind it to manage that. But there's a whole section in there for actually stepping back and doing the strategic part and looking at all of the risks in an organization, which ultimately, as technical people, we haven't always been good at looking at risk the same way businesses look at risk.
Yep.
And I see that kind of moving a little bit more into that. So when we talk risk as technical people, it's often very different than when the executive suite talks risk, right? They're talking about, can I make payroll? Can we do this? Can we keep the stakeholders happy? Where when we talk about risk, we talk about technical risk.
Right. Is there a misconfiguration?
Exactly. But we need to kind of get through all of that. We've been fighting that for a long time. But I think that's where a lot of that, when you talk about risk management strategies, we're starting to bridge in that area between the two areas.
And the policy side of the equation now, like for me, I saw that almost everywhere I talked to someone was the policy engine piece, and most of them were aligned for some reason to like NIST 800-207, which makes a lot of sense. Like that's the ZT thing, and if ZT is your strategy, whatever, that's a reference architecture. But the policy decision making side of this, I think this is where AI, even though it's ML, really does enable that activity. The agentic stuff, I think, is the next step. Right. Yeah. For right now, it's like put it in place, have it learn, figure out what's going on, and then start deploying fixes along the way.
Again, never trust, but verify.
Right, and making sure.
Always verify. So, and that's the thing is you can have it in your space learning, but just turning on an autonomous agent just to run a particular part of your SOC can be scary, and that, to me, that's not, at least now, it's not zero trust. It's not, unless the go-to-market strategy for those vendors, whoever's applying that particular thing, is looking at like, hey, it's with like human collaboration, right? Like the human still has to go
human in the loop,
right? Exactly. Like, alert me, let me know that it's happening without alert fatigue, right? But then, oh, okay, good. Yes, I trust that you will go and do this because I looked at your logs or your strategy about how you're going to do it. And then once it's done, if you send me the logs back, and then I can look at them and make sure it's done, again, verify, so.
And I think we're going to trust that more as we move forward. And allow especially agentic stuff to do more on its own before it requires a human interaction. As it continues to do it and do it well.
If it's done the same thing 30 times and no problems.
Sure. Let's move on. Right. It's kind of like taking the intern and moving him up.
I was just going to comment on that.
Ricky the intern.
Exactly. It's like let him learn, let him listen, be part of the process, and then say, okay, good. Here's a task that you can take care of, and then I'm just going to verify afterwards that you did it the right way. You didn't do it the right way. Well, Ricky,
we're going to fix that, and then right.
Well, circling back to your initial question about how do we treat the permissions and stuff for that. I honestly don't think we're going to want to treat permissions for those non-human entities any different than we are the humans. We still need to make sure that all of those least privileged things are in place and everything's being logged, and we're making sure that they aren't going places they aren't supposed to and doing stuff they shouldn't. Humans do the same thing all the time. And I would argue maybe even more unpredictably.
I think the one thing that worries me with agentic coming in those things is the speed of the way things are being developed now. Because I mean, you could wake up tomorrow and kick your beer can off the bed and have an idea about how to build an agentic something and for security and build it with like Replit or Lovable or something and deploy it. And you're just kind of going, I hope this is secure code. And I hope that it pulled libraries from GitHub and it didn't pull it from God knows where else.
Well, we're in that first to market phase right now, as opposed to best in market.
And, but we jumped the chasm. Like, usually there's the cross the chasm thing. Like we were just like looking at the chasm and like, fuck it. And just hopped across.
Didn't just skate right down and go.
There was no like crawl, walk, run. It was just like
grappling hook right over and just swing it.
Batarang or something.
But what's funny is, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, agentic AI and security was nowhere. Like you didn't hear it. It was on no podcast. It was on no blogs. Now it's there. But now what you're starting to see is secure your agentic AI. Now there's companies that are, they're okay. That market is getting saturated. Let me go ahead and actually service that market And then, as a vendor, or if, there's companies now allowing you to build your own agents. To your point, I just have a great idea. Let me just go ahead and build it. But is it being built securely?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a nice little triangle that's forming right now in terms of
self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, and the one thing that I still kind of stone that sticks in my craw is I don't see a lot of vendors that are running to serve the small and mid-sized market. Most of them, you guys, right? That's why I said I don't see many. I said,
okay, all right.
No.
Chase, did you forget?
No,
I don't know, man.
Like you guys,
He's had
not
many. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you set this up,
that was a softball.
Oh, okay.
Somehow you fumbled the softball. So.
Yeah, it actually would be. If only there was a company.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you pitch and they swing and.
Well, I got stuck on the rock in my craw.
The stone in my craw? Yeah, that's from the South. We say that. You never heard that?
I mean, I'm down in Florida. Florida's not the South.
We're South.
We're Florida, man.
Yeah.
We're not. It's funny. We're the Southest you can get, but we're not the South.
That's true.
South.
Well, and there's weird stuff that happens in Florida. I mean, there's Florida Man, which is the whole thing.
Yep.
So.
I've met at least 3 Florida men.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I've been in a few.
Your story about the cars that drive different. One has a gas pedal. Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh yeah,
so.
Sunshine Speedway, where they do the figure eight bus races, school bus races.
Oh yeah.
But then they also do ones where the front. I know we're getting totally.
No, but we can't. It's fine.
This is great. You have 2 cars. One is chained to chained to each other.
I've seen that. Yeah.
The guy in front can steer and has gas, but no brake.
Right.
The guy in the back has the brake, and they're
Yeah.
doing figure eights. So the guy lets off the pedal because he doesn't want to go because another car is coming. The other guy's not applying that brake. It's pandemonium.
That's also a perfect allegory for like what we see with CISOs and CIOs and COs, right? Somebody's just smashing the gas and the poor guy's at the back with the brake. Like, where are we going? I can't see. I know we're going fast.
Everything's siloed out, which I think that's, we'll get back to the SMB part because I want to be there, obviously. But
I want to whiff that pitch twice.
I'll just tee it up myself and then smack it out of the park. So, no, we have I just lost my train of thought. No, but having AI, because all these different products and, the villages or all the different things, the categories, they're all siloed. And if you can actually have AI or use AI in a way to kind of break those silos and make it to where they're all interacting together.
Which they should.
Exactly.
APIs are a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's like, then you're not focused on, company A can have their own agent that handles the thing that they're doing. And then you can have that across your other 37 products in your tech stack. But again, it's still siloed. One doesn't know what the other one is doing. So if you have like an overarching, not Skynet, but like an AI that can kind of integrate with all of those and start making recommendations
One
on
AI
what they should
to rule
one
them all.
AI to rule them all.
Yeah.
I actually,
Sauron of cyber. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think is interesting is, to your point, 5 months ago, nobody was talking agentic. Now all of a sudden it's like everywhere, all kinds of people doing that. And when it comes to technologies, a lot of times what we see is these things get launched in the big enterprise stuff, and then they kind of trickle down to the small, medium business. But I'd say there's more like a waterfall. The stuff's being available for pretty much all levels. Pretty damn.
It's pretty democratized, right?
But the attention's not being given to them. And unfortunately, for talking about SMBs, small mid-market, all the new companies, it's new, right? And so a lot of companies got a bunch of seed money and they're big, like, oh, I have to prove value to the investors. Enterprise. So I have to get those 500, 800, 900,000, $1.2 million contracts. And so that's their main focus. And then they kind of go into the SMB and, to tee it right back up. That's where we're different, So what, I thought I had a great idea 2.5 years ago. It just so happens that everybody else started getting the idea, over the last year and building,
Well, so you got a year plus on them, I guess.
That's true. So, but what I started thinking with was the fact that small, medium businesses don't have those 34 products within their tech stack and also a robust team to run them with a CISO that's experienced and has enough bandwidth to understand what's going on. These are overworked, tired, understaffed, under budgeted IT managers, IT directors that cybersecurity falls on them, and they don't necessarily, God love them. It's just that they're not cybersecurity guys.
Yeah, they're IT people.
They're IT people. And, it's like, I don't know if you know this, but those are two separate things. They need to work together, but they're separate. And so I, went to a really good colleague of mine, and he actually was pitching me ChatGPT back in 2018.
Oh, wow.
He started developing it, and he was working on not ChatGPT, obviously, like
trademark.
Yeah, sorry, trademark. Sorry,
you just got sued.
It's OpenAI, but
He means
I know LLMs. So that's what he was pitching me. He was not pitching me ChatGPT. It was a ChatGPT like product. I'm actually giving him a plug. And he started building that, and then obviously other products came out. I won't give them the acronym and their names. And so we pivoted and started saying, how can we apply this and train it in a way that it thinks like a CISSP, right? And how do we start with that and then give this to small, medium businesses to give them the steps, like figure out, are there misconfigurations within their current tech stack? Is there a shelfware that you guys have that you could use that could stop some attacks, but you're just not using them? And so started building that, and it's been great. And
you guys just got like a notified funding of this like Monday, right?
Yeah. So I it's fun not to be hypocritical. I said, obviously companies are getting a bunch of seed money, and
but you got seed money.
But we did, yeah. So this has been self-funded between myself and my partner and CEO Lars Letnoff. And we've been funding it for the last 2.5 years. And so we went out on a little roadshow for the last month and a half, and we got a $5.1 million seed round announced on Monday. So
congratulations.
That's great. And what that does, it helps us accelerate.
Now you can take it to the market.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we are next Monday, we're gold. So we've been beta testing for the last 6 months. It's been going really well. A lot of really good data. You looked at it.
I thought, we recorded a demo, but the jacked up Wi-Fi inside of the convention wasn't good. So we'll be doing another one, because I'm a big fan of clean UIs. I like it when I can see what to do. And I think this is where I kind of wanted to ask the question to both of you is, if this approach and AI and all these things are there, does the narrative about the lack of human capital in space, is that just dead? I think it is. Because I saw a recent thing that said, I think it was last week, said 3 million unfilled jobs in cyber. Like, there's no way.
I never believe those. Okay. Right. I work for a certain certification organization that does an annual report that says there's like 32 trillion people out of work or some crap like that, right? Every year they do the same thing. And I've never really believed that. There may be job openings posted somewhere, but they're not hiring for those. We see that all the time, right? But I do believe there are a lot of people who are understaffed. There's no team that says I got way too many people here,
for sure.
Right? And so anything that can augment what they're doing, can help them out, can give them tools to make things easier and quicker is going to be better. Because frankly, we're seeing attacks are going to grow with the use of AI, right? It's happening on both sides of things. Yeah. We've seen it was like a 17% increase in phishing emails in the last 6 months. And a lot of that, I think, is based on the fact that some of these phishing as a service groups are now deploying AI down 100%. To the low end.
No more shitty Russian emails.
No,
right.
It's Agentic AI on the adversarial side.
And this stuff's rolling out. We're also seeing a huge increase in polymorphic emails. So the attacks aren't the same thing goes out to 50 people. They're a little bit different, which makes it harder for the filters. But we're seeing that on the attack side. We have to have that on the defensive side. There's no way we can keep up with this kind of stuff without deploying it ourselves.
Now, I will, and obviously you can see it all over LinkedIn. You see guys, guys experienced CISSP, CISO types. Security analysts, SOC analysts that have been out of jobs for 6 months and they can't find something. So I kind of call BS on it a bit. I think also there is a part from the certification point and an idea push there that there's too many openings. But I think some of the companies, and it's in your enterprises, I think they are creating their own problem as well, where it's their expectation of what a junior level analyst is.
5 years and whatever.
Yeah. So, and maybe it's because they need that because they're not getting the right results. But then again, if you have an AI to not replace a human, but you put them together and upscale, that's my thing. Is I actually think AI is going to be used to upscale, not replace.
Yeah.
And
I think AI it's a paradigm shift in how we work, right? It's going to change everything we do in our personal lives, in our work lives, and in commercial lives. All that stuff is changing because of AI. That's not a bad thing. We saw the same thing happen with the advent of the internet.
Yeah.
right?
We saw it with interchangeable parts.
Right.
I mean, this has been like, I'm actually working on a report that's like the history of innovation and all this stuff. And it's crazy because people are like, AI is going to take everyone's job and ruin whatever.
Right.
No,
it's going to change.
Right.
It's going to adjust some things there, but it's not going to be taking everyone's job. I think the FUD around this is
well, that drives people to go off and figure out other things, right? And then they start investing in other. It's like the flim flam, the don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain type thing.
Yeah. And it's still so new. I mean, it's only 3 years in.
Yeah.
So.
But Moore's Law has just been obliterated.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me about Moore's Law, and I was like, nah, Moore's rolling over his grave. Like, we're so far past
it. It's what I love about what you guys are trying to do, like with Guardares and the way that you're approaching the problem is that it's to help other people out and to make sure. I love your thoughts about the shelfware and stuff like that, because how many organizations, especially small, medium ones, have all this stuff on there and they don't even realize the capabilities.
Every single one I talk to.
Yeah. But something's been added, but it hasn't been implemented. And instead they have this other tool that's doing that as well. And man, there's a lot of waste, but there's not a lot of time for the people to actually go in and audit that. I mean, how many small, medium business guys do you think have a week or so just to audit the settings on all of their things versus best practices and stuff? Right. Nobody's doing that.
And so that's how we took that approach. We know that MSPs and MSSPs, the very first thing they do to prove ROI is they go in and they audit the tech stack, they audit the settings, and they feel, oh my God, you have 2 products that are doing the exact same thing that you're paying this much money for every single year as a SaaS product. Let's kill one and so that shows the ROI. And that's what we're doing. We had the AI go to sites like KnowBe4 and read Stu Showerman's blog for the last 15 years, and community portal and the best practices guide and user guide. But we're doing that for every single product on the in the tech stack, and all 300 something vendors that are downstairs. The AI is going and learning and coming back as like a 20-year veteran. And then they're doing the audit of the tech stack within, these small media businesses. So, and, I don't want to harp just on SMB. Obviously, we're here at Gartner. It is
enterprise,
75%, 80% enterprise. And, there's big, large organizations that are coming and taking a look and saying, man, I see all the integrations you have. I'd love to give it a spin. So we're not going to say no. But our main focus is we want to really get in and help out the small, mid-sized businesses.
I mean, I think this overall right now is like one of the few times in my career where I've said a rising tide might actually lift all ships. Yeah. Because like this is democratization of strategy and technology, and everyone can do this. And I'm going to find it real hard in workshops in the future for people to say like, well, I don't know how to do this or I can't do this. Because I'm going to go, well, then you're just literally choosing not to.
Yeah.
This is not. We've made it pretty simple, and that's why the space itself is going to continue to evolve quicker. I think that this is going to be the probably greatest area for growth, other than medical science, because of AI for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah, and you can start taking the intern and give them AI and say, let's go ahead. And
they should be an L1.
They learn together. Mm-hmm. Right. And they're going to make their mistakes. And then that just kind of, then we're going to start realizing like how we should be implementing these policies and procedures. So not at the high level, like it's not going to, you just don't take out your CISO, just drop it in AI.
Well, sooner or later, someone needs to come up with an agentic AI that has one of those dog collars for the interns. And if they get it wrong, it zaps them and it updates the thing.
So I actually, hold on. So when you're at conventions, you have giveaways and, we're going to be auctioning off a drone or not auctioning off, but like, drop your business card in. I thought the greatest one is for specifically KnowBe4. I was there for 10 years, and Eric and I, worked together for a long time, and is a mouse that's connected that if they click, it shocks them.
Oh,
right. Yeah. So every time they click, it just shocks. And so I thought that would be.
You would see some people on fire. Yeah. Like their ass would actually just they would stroke out and die probably during a fishing exercise.
Or but the number one requested feature was just if someone clicked on a phishing link, that a cattle prod would pop out from underneath the desk and hit him on the.
I'm with it. Yeah.
You'll learn.
He's not really kidding about that either.
No, I'm not.
I heard that all the time.
It is.
Can we give like a kinetic response to a click?
Pain is the best teacher there is.
I bet if you go into the Jira or whatever ticketing system that KnowBe4 is using right now, that is probably one of the number one requested items.
I would support that. Like if I was running an org, I'd be like, guess what, folks? When you come in Monday, The prods are there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't click. Be careful what you
All
do.
joking aside, I think that would be a last resort. But at some point in
Of
time,
course.
a friend of mine, a guy that I know, Jason East Street, I heard him in a talk one time. We were talking about carrot versus stick sort of stuff on that.
Yep.
And
Carrot does better.
Well, and one of the
every
things
time.
he said, though, is how many times do you let the delivery driver wreck the delivery truck before you get a new delivery driver? Like at some point in time, even if you're trying to be nice, there's a time to be a little bit more serious about things like that.
And again, that's where it's you go back to the tech risk and the business risk, and that's where they need to be joined at the hip. And I think this is where AI will help simplify terms. And I give Stu Showerman, you got to give the man like so much credit. The one thing at every event that I ever went to is I had people coming up saying, "Is Stu here? I want to shake his hand." He made cybersecurity simple.
Yeah.
He would talk to the layman. He would take a very complex idea and he would break it down and just in plain terms, define every acronym, define every term in there, and make it to where people could understand this really complex ecosystem to then where they can, okay, great. Now I can take that back and speak to the board. And because I don't know how to translate myself. So, but AI, I think, is going to help make things a lot more simple as well. Like you can break down in terms. I mean, I do it all the time. And talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Well, there's a lot to learn with AI, though, because we are having new acronyms, new terms, new thought processes.
The speed of this stuff is just bonkers.
Yeah.
It's even all the way down to kids in school. Like my daughters, whatever, they're still in high school. And I told them, I was like, look, in the Cunningham household, we cheat. So I got them licensed for Perplexity. Like, you have a question that dad can't answer, you ask the bot.
Yeah.
Because they're going to give you, they're asking me stuff about like parabolas that I don't know. And I'm just going, just ask Perplexity.
When's the last time you used a parabola?
In my life, never.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time was maybe in the military with a parabolic antenna, but that was just doing this until I saw the light turn green.
You did use the thing about jumping the chasm, and a chasm kind of is
shape. It's kind of hyperbolic. Yeah. All right. So there you go. See? Yeah. All right. So we've been going over all kinds of topics. If you're looking for new stuff coming out, Guardare, Guadare, look for these guys. They're doing stuff for SMBs. I've seen the product. It's pretty cool. And of course, KnowBe4. For anyone that says that I talk a lot of shit about phishing training, I'm literally within striking distance of a KnowBe4 guy, and he hasn't hit me yet. So
I did leave them here in the room for about 5 minutes alone, and I came back and
no blood.
Still
no
exactly,
blood. Yeah. All right. So, but as always, stay smart, stay safe, stay secure. We'll be doing this as much as I possibly can. It's kind of that busy season, so if I can help, reach out to me. I'm sure the folks at Guardares would love to talk to you. KnowBe4, you know where they are. And let's figure out where we go from here, folks.
Thanks, Chase.